Welcome to the Geek Homeworld. I am your host, SavageTechman. We talk sci-fi, TV, movies, superheroes, and all from a geek perspective. You can find us on Blogger, Google+, Twitter, Facebook. We're everywhere. Join the Geek Homeworld. Hi, this is Ed, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Geek Homeworld. And joining me today is Cheryl.
Woohoo!
Welcome back to the podcast. You've been on a long hiatus. Doing a lot of things. We are discussing on this particular episode of the Geek Homeworld the Orville versus Star Trek Discovery.
Indeed.
And what we were promised on both of these series, we got the opposite on. We were promised how great Star Trek Discovery would be as long as we paid for it. On top of
the more we
cable.
pay, the better it's supposed to be.
Apparently. And then we were promised just a straight out dumb comedic Orville.
American Dad.
Basically. Or
Dad's in space.
Yeah, something like that.
Divorced men in space.
And we got the total opposite. We got, right off the bat, I'm going to say the Orville should have been Star Trek Discovery. It really should have been.
Well, I don't know that it's that much that. I mean,
unfortunately, I know we've talked about this several episodes on the podcast about Star Trek Discovery and how excited to finally get another series after Enterprise, which wasn't that good.
It's been a long road.
It's getting from there to here. It's been a long road, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there was a lot of anticipation about Discovery. A lot of fan angst over the fact that in order to get it, you're going to have to subscribe to CBS All Access.
Yeah.
They did, of course, air it on CBS regular broadcast channels, just the one premiere episode, which I think the beginning of this episode I thought was really good. It was very Star Trek. With the opening with the Captain Gregory and Sonequa Martin Green's character being stranded on the planet and trying to find rescue, and it demonstrated that scene, or that series of scenes where they're stuck there, demonstrated some of the things about the Star Trek universe that we all understand. The idea of the Prime Directive. What are we supposed to do if we're stranded? And through Michelle Yeoh's character, Captain Gregory, we see the value of leadership, the value of wisdom. We know that Sonequa Martin Green is supposed to be the star of the show, but she's the one who, in this instance, doesn't really understand what's going on or what she should do. Whereas you have the captain and all of her wisdom and her years of training and leadership, she just keeps calm and she manages to get them rescued in a very clever way. And then from there on, it was kind of really trash, in my opinion. And I wanted to like it. I wanted to say, okay, I'm going to invest in CBS All Access because it's important to me to watch the show. But frankly, I didn't feel that way at all at the end of the episode. I thought, well, I guess I can save my money because it's not worth it to me to pay to see this, because it wasn't at all what I want Star Trek to be or what I love about Star Trek.
Well, it's very J.J. Abrams-like, which I didn't necessarily mind. I'll go along with it, but we're going to get into things like timeline issues and where this show fits, Star Trek Discovery. But for me, just backing up a little bit, I think we did like the opening sequence of it. We didn't like the theme music necessarily, or at least I didn't.
Oh, yeah. You're big about not having the orchestral music.
Right. And
the only reason you like Star Wars and Star Trek is because it has orchestral music.
No.
On the flip side,
it's so much deeper.
That's the only orchestral music you like is Star Trek.
John
Star
Williams,
Wars.
essentially. Yeah, John Williams is beyond a genius. But the Orville was different than Star Trek, and we got... I don't want to hate on Star Trek, but I have no choice but to point out the obvious on some things. What we got in the Orville is what we were hoping for kind of in Discovery. And for me, one of my favorite, next to The Next Generation, which is my favorite Star Trek, incarnation on TV
series.
Thank you. Was Voyager, and I like the fact on Voyager every week they were going somewhere new. They were trying to get back home, but they were going somewhere new.
Well, and they set up that series specifically to allow for those storylines. They put them in a part of the universe that we'd never been to before.
So there's nothing groundbreaking about this, and I don't know. Let's just start delving into the different things about it. It's very flashy. It looks very...
Oh my gosh, you already mentioned J.J. Abrams, and I'm sorry, I'm partially blinded now because of all of the lens flare on this episode. Well, and the irony is, okay, it has a lot more in common production-wise and even to an extent theme-wise with the Kelvin alternative universe of the J.J. Abrams reboots. It looks like it belongs in that universe, but the irony is it doesn't. That in the timeline, it's actually supposed to be in the Prime universe right before the original series, but it doesn't look like it. It doesn't feel like it. And one of my chief complaints about it is we get another remake of the Klingons all over again. I mean, I don't even know at this point how many versions of Klingons we've had. Our number one adversary in the Star Trek universe / later on ally / adversary allies. Frenemies, the Klingons.
Frenemies, yeah.
But they not only do they look different again, and they look like they've been dipped, like the Exxon Valdez came by and wiped them all down.
Oh my
they
gosh.
get dipped in oil. They can't even speak Klingon properly. They're like, go, what? What's the next word? I don't know.
And then also that you're dealing with subtitles every time they speak. And I'm sorry, the average person, after a while we get it that they're speaking Klingon, but we always kind of understood that, it's going to be in English. And I don't mean that to sound against anybody or anything, but
well, I mean, even in Undiscovered Country, you start off where they're speaking Klingon, you're getting subtitles, and then it's understood. We understand these characters are still speaking Klingon, but we, the audience, are hearing them in English.
We have our universal translator, as it were. So,
so why do we have to keep messing with that kind of thing when, and the Klingons are so important to this series, so we had to completely reinvent them again.
Yeah.
It's as if they don't care about the older fans. And maybe they don't. Maybe they don't care about the established fans. That this show, this series is reaching out to a new fan base that's looking for something else, where they just want to see war and fighting, and they just want to see things get blown up, and they just want to see the latest tech. But the problem with technology in these prequels is it's always better than the other side. It's like in Star Wars.
It's episode 1. Everything looks better in the prequels than they did.
They just can't stop messing with it.
I could understand and I've said this before, if the Empire, when it took over, by the time between episodes 3 and 4, basically, I can see them watering down everything, no beautiful, bright colors. Obviously, women had no part in the Empire. Very men's only club there. And, or Sith only also.
Pretty much still the same now.
Still the same. But the thing about it is that if there were, the Empire wiped out all the technology on all these planets, then maybe that would make sense. Okay, R2-D2.
But R2-D2?
Yeah.
In the first 3 movies.
He had more abilities than...
Well, I'm not talking about the prequels. I'm talking about the original films, episodes 4 through 6.
Yes.
Where basically he's a rolling screwdriver who can show pretty bad films,
Yeah.
But by the time we go back into episodes 1 through 3, I mean, he can fly and he can do all sorts of things. And that's just, you get the technology in the film production gets improved. And you get the people wanting to do something different. But for me, it just messes with the storyline. And the other thing is, it messes, particularly for Star Trek, it's detracting from the character development. And the characters in Discovery 2, to me, are not interesting. So now we get to find out that all along Spock had this human foster sister we never heard of before.
Yeah, like where did that come from?
And then we get
in itself is an intriguing concept, but it's just it's cheating time, because now you're adding something that there was never even a hint. If there was some kind of hint somewhere,
or they'll go back like the Trouble with Tribbles, and we'll get a flashback where we'll see her and Spock playing together. I don't know.
I don't know about that, but it's definitely Discovery has that flash and the substance. When we look at it, it's like a beautiful looking car with a really crappy engine in it. And the Orville.
Now, to be fair, I mean,
Yeah.
we should emphasize we've already said that we weren't investing in CBS All Access. So
Right.
everything we're saying is based on one episode and then having read some
I've
reviews.
Yeah. Now, I'm not quite sure about this, but I think it may have already been picked up for a second season.
Oh, I'm sure, because I'm sure it is getting a lot of business for CBS All Access, and I'm sure that it is getting good ratings.
But there are so many angry, hardcore Star Trek fans.
But we're all going to die, so they don't care. I mean, we're all over
Well,
40. Who cares?
There are people younger than 40 that care. I know, but you still don't call it Star Trek then. Don't ruin Star Trek, you know.
Well, that's what it's trying to take. It's trying to pick the best of all Star Treks and mush them all together in a way that just doesn't make sense.
There was an early plan on the previous director of this, and they were going to switch different captains, maybe the same ship and different captains, or different ships or different timelines. That would have been fascinating. But even with the All Access thing,
But still,
not
it's
gonna
all
pay
about
for it.
tricks.
It is about tricks. It is about tricks. And there's no, like the Orville, like I was saying, there has been some spectacular storylines on the Orville there, you know, that we haven't seen. And so when we get to Star Trek Discovery not having substance, they certainly on the Orville have that substance. There's been some, like the, I cannot think of the character, but Bortus, where
The all-male society.
Thank you. I love it how you can
Can read your mind.
Thank you. You're an empath. Thank you, Deanna Troy. But
Deanna Troy. Oh. You said Dina.
That's
Her
that's what
unknown sister that's going to show up on Star
yes,
Trek Discovery.
She's half Vulcan. So, you know.
A Vulcan telepath.
Well, actually, they are telepathic.
Well, I mean, not telepath, but
empath.
Empath, thank you. Well, one of the things with the Orville, which is, I guess, not unexpected, maybe should have been anticipated, very much like Galaxy Quest. This is outside of the Star Trek universe, but very much in tune with the Star Trek universe. And when you're dealing with the overall showrunner, if you will, being Seth MacFarlane, who is a big fan. So this is really a work of fan fiction.
Right.
This is a fan
It
film
works.
that really works. Well, I mean, it still for me has problems because I'm not an adolescent boy or adolescent acting man. So, but overall, you know, it has that silliness, but I expected, this is a Seth MacFarlane project. It's going to be really stupid.
Stupid, funny, yeah.
But instead,
it's very intelligent.
I just get over the fact that they use the word at least once an episode and have some silly, stupid jokes, especially often the lines assigned to Scott Grimes. But even he has very substantive things to offer with his character as the pilot.
And they have some of those deep next generation type storylines that make you consider things. And like
very
I think
contemporary issues.
I think the last episode that we saw had where the people were voting the crewmen down.
Majority rules.
Majority rules, yeah. And that was a clever thing on, you know, we've got American Idol, we've got all these other shows.
Everybody gets to vote to decide who's up and who's down.
Who's voted off the island on Survivor, you know, and all these thumbs up, thumbs down. It's the Facebook generation. It's, you know, like this, like that, you know, no dislike button yet. But that was a great episode to say, okay, imagine a society where justice is handed out by popular vote.
Well, and the thing, you know, unlike in Star Trek where you always have the most positive possible outcome, we address these social issues with the Orville, but it doesn't always end up the way you think it's going to. And so in the episode that does focus on Bortus, who is a character, and by the way, spoiler alerts, I guess we should have said that 300 hours ago. In the episode where it focuses on Bortus, who is a character who comes from an all-male society, as it turns out, not an all-male society.
Yes.
Not everyone is born male. And in the end, the decision that he and his husband partner make is not the decision you would expect them to make in the Star Trek universe. And so I remember
you
when
remember
we
the
watched
episode from The Next Generation with Riker, and he goes on the away mission, and society people.
The
where
genderless society.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of that one too, but a little different.
So you have issues like that. You have the episode where the captain and his ex-wife, who's played by Pilecki, get kidnapped, and they're basically being held in a zoo of aliens. And so there's that whole moral issue about how we treat other species. So almost every episode,
species the way it is.
Every episode has some flavor of that, thrown in with the jokes. And so I can see it becoming, because it's a spoof without being spoofy,
But
because it's very respectful.
It's respectful, and sometimes I forget that it's a spoof because it's so serious a lot of the times, and it has those really deep, interesting plots that pull you in and keep you engaged. And then just out of the blue, they'll say something that's totally almost slapstick,
Well, I think that combination of humor with the
works,
serious topics makes it actually more real. So it's not real in the way so much of today's television and films are very gritty and sardonic and very cynical. It's real in the way that I go to my job and we're working on serious stuff, but we're also saying funny things to each other.
Right. And you're enjoying life, and you're respectfully having just a laugh here or there.
But it's folded in already a number of people who were involved specifically with Star Trek: The Next Generation, but also with Voyager. So you've already had, in just this first few episodes of the Orville, you've had, of course, direction by Seth MacFarlane, but produced also with MacFarlane by Brannon Braga of the Star Trek universe, who also, I think, directed an episode. You also had an episode directed by Jonathan Frakes, who, of course, played Will Riker in The Next Generation, by Robert Duncan McNeil, who plays Tom Paris in Voyager. And then one of the main characters on the show, well, I don't know that she's a main character, but certainly one of the central characters, recurring characters playing the Doctor, is Penny Johnson Gerald, who was the wife of Captain Sisko on Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Yes.
So you're taking all these people from the Star Trek universe and putting them together on this project.
What's interesting, they should be on Discovery, but they ended up on the Orville. So it's almost like...
the people from Discovery are more the big film, big budget people,
But...
And that has a whole different flavor to it.
I'm all for a new take on things, but you have to walk that fine line, and Discovery, I don't think, has done it well yet. And I believe they will course correct. They will do something. I guarantee that CBS All Access won't be on there exclusively. They're going to run some kind of promotion to get in there.
No, I don't think that. I think you're still going to have to buy it somehow. It may be available via other channels, but you're still going to have to pay specifically for it.
Just wait till AMC does this, and then The Walking Dead, you have to pay cable, and then you have to pay
and this may be the direction that it's all going in entertainment, that we are basically
double
paying for each thing that we watch.
In that case, then I want to talk to Comcast, and I want to, at the beginning of the month, I want to order the shows I want to see, and that's all I want to pay for.
Exactly. I don't want to pay for all these other things that we don't watch.
Or can't get.
In fact, can I tell a story about what a geek you are?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
On the day that the new Star Wars trailer was going to be shown during a football game,
The Last Jedi,
Ed was freaking out because he says, I can't figure out whether I have ESPN or not. And I'm like, you don't even know if you have ESPN. You are a real geek.
And I found out at the last minute I didn't, and I thought I did.
And then he freaked out, and I found it for him online.
I know,
and all was well in the universe again.
I was losing my mind.
And then he stopped speaking to me for 3 hours while he watched it over and over and over again.
Yeah, I was like, I need a moment of
I'm sure
silence.
you've already taled about it on the show.
I don't know if I have, but...
Really? I would be stunned.
But that just opens up some more possibilities. I'm trying not to overhype for The Last Jedi, but it's got me excited. And
I think Luke's a bad guy.
Stop it. Stop it. Just because it's red and black and the colors of the Sith, and it's not, there's a balance. It's more than that.
I was about to sing the Indiana Jones theme for some reason. But anyway, I'm definitely going to keep watching the Orville. I mean, I'll look for opportunities if Discovery comes my way for free.
If it crashes into our house.
Frankly, the last Star Trek prequel, Enterprise, despite Scott Bakula and how much I love him, I have yet to finish watching Enterprise.
We went back to
and this
watch.
is what 20-something years ago, and I haven't finished watching
I
the
don't know if it's
series
been
yet.
that long, but
I
feels
started
like
earlier this year trying to watch season 1, and I
Well-
think I've gotten through 6 episodes in 6 months.
You and I sat there and watched the pilot episode, and it was painful. And I don't remember it being that boring, but Star Trek Enterprise does get better towards the end. But that's
So far, it's still Porthos who's the best.
yeah, Porthos rocks. But I don't know. I would still put Enterprise, at least I would put it within. I don't even feel like Discovery fits anything we've seen in the Star Trek universe.
Well, like I said, I think it fits better in the Kelvin universe than it does in the Prime universe, even though that's not where they intend for it to be.
Right.
It looks like it, just based on lens flare alone. If we could live in a universe without lens flare, I would be grateful.
Be happy.
Oh, and one other thing I did want to mention about the Orville too, they've already had massive guest stars. Charlize Theron,
Yes.
Liam
Yes.
Neeson.
Yes.
So I think it's got staying power too. I think we may see it become a little gentler on the humor, a little bit less of the adolescent humor that we've seen from Seth MacFarlane's prior projects.
But I don't want it to be too serious. I
think it's still going to keep that humor.
Keep humor in it, it's kind of like that airplane kind of humor where the guy just kind
It's
of...
not quite that bad.
No, it's not that bad. Where the guy pops in and goes, Annie Mae, what is it?
Don't call me Shirley.
Yeah. Well, but I think it gets it right. I wouldn't have thought this show... I thought this show was going to be just totally off the rails, stupid, and it's intelligent. It's... Even the ship at first, I
love the ship.
didn't like the ship. I was like, it looks funny with those, I want to call them the cells. I don't know what they call them on the show. The 3 little fantails. It looks like a fish
They
or
look
something.
like headbands.
They do look like headbands. And,
Maybe
but
they're looking. It's a
didn't
homage
take-
to Geordie's visor.
3 of them, yes. Well, but the thing is, I did probably about the second episode or so. I was like, I do like this. I like the way they go to warp. Those little things. I look for that. I love the montage, the opening. I love the opening of it. So that's the only thing that I think Discovery and Orville got right together. If you had to say they got 2 things exactly right together, is the opening.
Really? Because I thought you said you didn't like the opening of Discovery because of the music.
No. I like the visuals. I didn't
the
like
visuals.
Didn't like the music.
Yes, because your favorite opening of all the Star Treks is
Don't say Enterprise.
not Enterprise. No, you
Next
like
Generation.
best. No, Voyager.
I do like. I like the
You
visuals.
like the way Voyager warps.
Yeah, I do. How then the cells go up like that, and then all of a sudden, and of course, obviously, it's in touch with the music like it would be, but
We could use with a little less Norm Macdonald on Orville, that kind of thing. Although it's funny, I enjoy it. So I'm not saying that we have to get rid of Norm Macdonald, but I don't know.
Star Trek.
I like it. I enjoy it.
That's the thing about
It's
Star
fun.
Trek fans. We're not all intense and super serious. We like to have fun too. And,
Well, there's plenty of
but
there's plenty of stuff out there. If you want to watch things get blown up, if you want to see slick technology, there are lots of shows out there, a lot of movies out there that you can go watch. You don't have to call it Star Trek.
Right. And this, I really think, though, that CBS and the powers that be there are going to look at Discovery and they're going to make adjustments. And they're going to make changes in it. And they're going to make it more available because I think in the long run, a lot of Star Trek fans, they've got to appease us over 40, over 30, or whatever. They've got to appease us to, we've went ahead because we want Star Trek in our lives. We want new Star Trek. We've gone with the J.J. Abrams. It may not be our favorites.
It's really making me
we still enjoy 'em.
reconsider how much I have liked the J.J. Abrams things, because now I'm like, maybe I just liked it because I was desperate for Star Trek. Maybe
That's
it didn't
kind of my
merit
point,
as much as I thought.
And, some Star Trek is better than none, but that's kind of pushing
Hashtag
it too.
Cumberbatch is not Khan. Great villain. He's not Khan. I'll leave it there.
And
Cheryl out.
totally justified Khan was.
Absolutely. He's not a bad guy at all.
He's not a bad guy at all,
like
according
Luke
to J.J. Abrams.
Skywalker is.
No, we don't know that. There's no confirmation. Me wincing in pain over here. And so to wrap it up, our final thoughts on Star Trek Discovery versus Orville. If you had to choose, obviously save some money and go see the Orville.
If you're rich, watch Discovery. If you're not, just watch Orville.
Or watch them both and then realize that you like Orville better. So we need to hear from you fans at Geek Homeworld on Twitter. Let us know. Tell us what we got wrong about Star Trek Discovery. Tell us how we're wrong.
Oh, no.
We'll love that. Tell us what we got right about Orville or what we got wrong there. So I think it's Star Trek Orville.
Just like Galaxy Quest ranks among the top Star Trek movies. And it's not a Star Trek movie at all.
One last thing I want to leave with.
If you haven't seen Galaxy Quest, see Galaxy Quest.
Just wanted to touch on this, and you made me think about that. Is I know that they've cracked down considerably on the fan-made films, and there's a big Star Trek community that does really high production.
Very good, yes.
I watched one the other day on YouTube, and I cannot remember the name of it. It begins with an A.
That's near.
It's just a name. Yeah, my memory. But there's so many stipulations now of what a fan film can be, and I think some of them started rivaling what they were about to put out or putting
Absolutely.
out. You know, and some of these. The one I saw is better than Discovery. I would love to see it continue on. And there's a lot of Patreons out there for some of those fan films, and now they have to fall within the line. But I just want to see good Star Trek-based that makes sense within the timeline of Star Trek that we've grown and love. And I want to see
the
the Star
vision
Trek
of the
thing.
future of Star Trek too.
I want to see the future. We've seen the past, and we know Enterprise shows it doesn't
our
work.
future as humans.
Right.
That Discovery doesn't fit into that Roddenberry vision of a future where peace is possible.
Right. I want to see some of our problems today worked out in that framework.
Not we
And in
step
the
on a
future.
ship we don't know what it is and we start destroying it and we shoot the first guy we see.
Yeah.
Hello. You know, Sonequa, he's not a zombie. You didn't have to shoot him. You shouldn't have been there in the first place.
All right. So,
Out for real now.
for real, you're done. Okay. Well, let us know what you think at Geek Homeworld. And this is Ed along with Cheryl. And thank you for listening to another episode of the Geek Homeworld podcast. Goodbye. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Geek Homeworld podcast with your host, SavageTechman. You can find us on Libsyn, Google+, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, listen to us on iTunes, see us on YouTube, be part of our Mixler chats. Thank you. See you again on the Geek Homeworld podcast.